2009. By then, BBC4 will be well underway with its week-long celebration of the work of Alfred Hitchcock, the centrepiece of which is a new documentary presented and directed by Paul Merton. It places a particular emphasis on Hitchcock's life and work before he left for Hollywood in 1939. And assuming he's not been waylaid by a man with a missing finger or kidnapped by a mysterious foreign power on a trans-European train, Paul will be joining me very shortly to talk about his fascination with Hitchcock's early career. First, though, here's a flavour of the programme.
Although sound was inevitable, Hitch was not about to abandon the visual style he had so carefully honed. Blackmail stages a climax in a landmark location, in this case the British Museum. This was soon to become a Hitchcock trademark. If we think of the Royal Albert Hall and The Man Who Knew Too Much, the London Palladium and the 39 Steps, North by Northwest, of course, Mount Rushmore, and the fruit and vegetable market, Covent Garden in Frenzy.
Paul, how lovely to have you back here for Film 2009. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
What was it that prompted you to want to make this show? What did you want to share with us or discover?
I think, I mean, he is my favourite director, film director, Alfred Hitchcock, and I think it's because, like everything that I like, there's a real strong sense of humour running through it. And I saw the 39 Steps on telly when I was 8 years old one Saturday morning, and was just hooked by that whole narrative of the guy that's being chased first of all by the police, then by the crooks, then by somebody else, and ended up in the London Palladium as a guy with a missing finger and all this sort of stuff. I was just enthralled by the sort of sheer narrative thrust of the story.
And without perhaps, I would imagine, being aware of how masterfully it was being told. I mean, it's just, the skill is there, but it's not, it doesn't kind of smack you in the face.
No, exactly. He does unusual shots at times. You'll suddenly you'll have a couple that are talking near the beginning of the film when they're leaving the music hall, and suddenly he puts the camera up here and he's looking right down on them. It doesn't feel odd. It feels part of the storytelling thing. And of course, his working method was extraordinary because he would storyboard everything and only shoot what he actually wanted. So that was to protect himself. If a producer came along later on and said, no, you have to recut it, he'd say, well, that's all I have. Yeah.
Do you have a personal favourite? I'm guessing it's going to be 39 Steps.
I think it's 39 Steps. And, you know, and there's one shot in it that I always really admired it, simply because it's such an unusual choice. And it was only making this documentary I realised actually what it was. In the final sequence, when we're at the London Palladium, and there's a shot behind Memory Man looking out into the packed auditorium, and Robert Donat stands up in them and says, what are the 39 steps? And it's right in the corner of this big frame. Now, a normal director would come in on a close-up of a man saying, what are the 39 steps? But it's in distance, and because it's in a distance, it sort of makes you it surprises you. But when I looked at it again, what it actually is, it's a shot that's part of a thing called the Schuften process, which basically means...
Hold on. It's like you're on Call My Bluff now. I'm not sure whether the Schuften process actually exists.
No, it's Eugene Schuften. I know that name the first name doesn't lend it any more credence. The system was this. If you wanted to get a shot of the London Palladium, interior London Palladium, it's packed, you've got 2,000 people there, you can't possibly get 2,000 extras in to shoot this sequence, and it's going to be very impossible to light as well. So what you do is you take a photograph of the auditorium with 2,000 people. You then project that photograph onto a big mirror and you scratch a corner of the mirror away where you put your real actor who's moving.
So it's like a mat, essentially.
It's exactly it. So the reason why nothing's moving and the reason why there's no close-up, because he can't go close. To show you the interior of the London Palladium, you can only do it one way, which is to take a photograph, project it onto a mirror, and have this guy in the corner stand up and say, what are the 39 steps?
And yet the limitations of the technology actually make it a more memorable shot.
Absolutely, totally.
You, Richard Hannay?
Listen, there's something you ought to know.
Keep Hannay, come along quietly.
Yes, but look here, that man on the stage...
Now, look here, old man, you don't want to cause any trouble and spoil people's entertainment.
Where's the capital of... What are the 39 steps?
One of the things which I enjoyed about the show is the fact that you've put a lot of yourself into it, not just your enthusiasm, but you've directed it as well.
Yes, yes.
You're mentioning the Schuften method.
Schuften process.
Makes me think that we have here a director who's chomping at the bit to go out and do something long form yourself. Will you be doing movies, Paul?
I don't know. It's finding the time, isn't it, in the end, and the commitment to it. You know, the thing with something like this documentary, of course, it does take a few months, but if you're making a documentary about someone like Alfred Hitchcock, you already have, like, really good material at your disposal. So you don't have to invent the whole thing. What you have to do is present it in a way which is interesting and informative and entertaining, but you don't have to start from the very first sort of blank page, because Hitchcock's done all that stuff.
Yeah.
So in a way, this kind of show is a little easier than sort of just going, all right, I'm doing the whole thing myself.
Well, it is informative, it is entertaining, and it is also, it taught me some things about Hitchcock I didn't know, and I'm a huge fan of his, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's a great show. I'd like to see you make more of them, but I'm looking forward to you going out and making your own movies, Paul.
Yeah, well, maybe. I'll do that and you'll give it a terrible review.
Come on. That's one of the reasons why I want you to go and make
You've got to generate the work. I understand.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
This man's to be questioned by the sheriff principal.
At one point, there is a lovely camera effect that you hardly notice. This scene is shot in the studio, showing passengers inside a supposedly moving car with back projection. Hitch then uses the black canvas of the car to cut to an exterior shot of the Scottish Highlands.
Just a reminder that Paul Merton Looks at Alfred Hitchcock is on BBC4 next week, initially at 9 p.m. on Saturday the 28th of February, when it will be bookended by The Lady Vanishes and Rebecca, which sounds like a great night in to me.